Well, welcome to Survivor Experience Podcast, Stroke of Genius Podcast. Have I guessed? I got a brother here, and really, he's had a profound effect on my life. His name is Mitch Axelrod, and we here this morning to talk to you about self-love. What is it? Why should a stroke survivor be at all into self-love, and what is it? So let me bring him on camera and we'll get right into it. We only got 30 minutes together, so let's get right into it. Welcome to Stroke of Genius Podcast, Survivor Experience. I'm your host, Unravel. 13 years ago, I suffered a brain aneurysm and a stroke. My mission of this podcast is to provide you with the support, valuable insights, and inspiration to help you need to rebuild your life after stroke. So without further ado, here's your host, Aaron Avalon. Well, good morning, Mitch Axelrod. Great to have you, bro.
It's great to be with you as always. I look forward to this conversation. It's something that's
it's really, it's core for who we are as human beings, that we need to learn to love ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know it goes back to that hard to give water to a glass is half full. So we want to leave this show knowing how to fill a glass up with self-love so we can love other people. So, Mitch, please take a minute and introduce yourself.
Mitch Axelrod. I'm Brooklyn, New York. A long time ago, life in New Jersey, and the past 13 years I'm in San Diego, in this city in America. And like you, 3 years ago, I woke up very dizzy and passively had a stroke. Found out I had a brain tumor to the stroke on the other side of my head. Days I had a stroke that left me right side paralyzed. My arms, my legs, couldn't speak, couldn't walk, couldn't talk. Then surgeries in 5 days, and then 9 weeks in rehab to learn how to walk again, talk again, using my arm. Not fully. I'm not really able to type yet, but it changed my perspective on life in so many good ways. So I'm here, I'm alive, I'm talking, I'm walking, and I have a very optimistic outlook about life. And I think the mental aspect is the thing when you go through something like this. It's hard, you can't deny that. But the mental, when I was in the nurse, I was 4 weeks in a wheelchair, and then I got out walking. I was the only person in the nursing home, 70 so people, who was walking. And I could see the look on the people's faces. And I could see the ones that were already defeated, ones that were just looking at me and saying, that's going to be me one day. And I think that what happens is you get into a funk naturally, and you wonder what you're going to be like. I speak for a living, and I write for a living. And the two things I do, which I love, and I'm gifted at, I couldn't, and I still can't type. So instead of kind of going into a shell, I was working on my mind. And last conversation about a little phrase I developed, and it really got me through mental difficulty. So I was able to stay positive and work on recovering. And we talked about that in our last conversation. And the short version is of whatever you think, whatever you believe, whatever your mind is trying. There's really only two filters through which you should determine if that is something you should hold on to or let go. And that is it loving and serving? Is my belief loving and serving me, or loving and serving the and serve? If it isn't, the is why do you hold on to it? Now, again, we're not psychologists, but we've and the hardest thing is to get through Alyssa's 5 stages of grief. So when something bad happens, denial, not me, and then you realize it's you, and then you go into anger. Why did this happen to me? What did I do this? Okay, and then you begin to bargain. All right, you say, okay, just get better, God, and I'll be a good boy. I won't hurt anybody. I won't say you bargaining with whomever your higher power is. Okay, and if that doesn't work, you go into the deep depression, and it's that state of grief that determines whether you cross the bridge to finally acceptance or you stay in that depression. And it's very hard to pull out of a depression when you're not really in control of why you're in the depression. You're in a wheelchair. You can't talk like you used to. You can't move your arm. It's easy to stay there. But it's a move to acceptance. So what I did, I went right to acceptance. I said, okay, I'm alive. I a little bit. I can move. Okay, this is it. I'm just going to accept it. Now, what do I have to do? Get busy, work. Wax on, wax off. Every day. Chop wood, carry water. Physical therapy, occupational speech therapy for 4 hours a day. Back in my room for another hour of therapy. But I had 10 hours a day to keep going crazy. And so I began to immerse myself in things that loved and served me, in mental food that loved and served me. And so I realized that self-love, valuing yourself intrinsically for who you are, and the idea that once you're gone, you're never to be seen again. Think of all those people who love you and want to serve. And so I said, I'm not going to be a victim here. I'm not defined by the stroke. I'm going to be defined by how I reacted to the stroke, how I responded to the stroke. And I think people became inspired to see, like, wow, if you do it, I can do it. And so long-winded kind of introduction to this conversation.
Oh, no, I think you don't think it's great, Mitch. In my journey with stroke, as with yours, I got 3 books in my head. Stroke Chronicles, Milwaukee of Destiny, and The Rebel Fetch Stroke. Well, I came with the 4th one a couple of days ago, which is Stroke, the Journey Within. Because for me, like you, my stroke was not about the outward things. It was about, I looked inward. I looked inward towards my mind. And that is what really differentiates stroke TV media from all the other stroke groups out there. Is that most stroke groups put big emphasis on moving your arm and gaining what you used to do or say or look like, whatever. But now, reality, I have found it to be totally true, like you. You must start with the mind. You must have the cornerstone, the right mind frame, state of mind. And what, if you can, Mitch, tell me, because to say that self-love is a very common phrase. I do know that we all know what it is. What is self-love?
That's a really good question. So I'm going to do a little journey here. About years ago, I wrote a piece. I've written 500 articles and blog posts, training programs, and whatnot. And the theme of the article was to love your three selves. You say, well, don't I have just self? No, three selves. You're a three-dimensional being: mind, body, spirit. Okay. The spirit part is your soul. That's your intrinsic value. Your intrinsic value, who you are, is an irreplaceable. There's only one you ever to be, never to be again. Body part is, so that's your self-worth. Esteem yourself and value yourself just for being human. Unfortunately, 70 to 80% of us, and we have this tool that actually can show this, undervalue or disvalue our intrinsic self. And here's why. We're comparing it to what our self-image is, with body, so to speak, in the mind, body, spirit. All right. And so the second self is self-image. And that's not the same thing as self-worth. Self-esteem is how you value yourself just for being you. Stage is how you project the image of you to the world. And that, for many people, is totally different than they are. So who you are is self-esteem. What you do is self-image, self-concept. But the third self is the one that's crushing most of us. And that's the self-concept. The self-concept is your thinking about who you should be when you're better, when you're perfect. And if you compare who you are, who you think you ought to be, should be, got to become, you always come up short. So what happens is a lot of attention on your self-concept, who you think you should become, expectations, your diminished self. And then if you don't live up to that, you diminish your own intrinsic value. So I use three people, get in touch with this as simple as it is. I call it soul and goal. Your soul is who you are. Who you are is infinitely valuable, placeable. And if you just talk to people who love you and want to serve you, you will find out how valuable you are. That's the intrinsic value. That doesn't have anything to do with your extrinsic value or your role, how much money you make, how much, how you enjoy your work, how much value you get out of what you do. And that is still different, which is, who do you think you should be? What do you think you have to achieve? And so the hierarchy is soul, role, goal. Unfortunately, we've got it values inversion. We put the concept of who we ought to be, where we should go, our goal, we start there. And then the role becomes to get the goal. Whether our soul is aligned with the goal, whether our soul is really suited to do the role, we get driven by the goal. And that creates a complete value inversion. So what happens is, rather than appreciating ourselves for who we are, we compare ourselves to what we think we should be. And that we'll always come up short. Or in the extrinsic world, what we do, we compare ourselves to others. Oh, this guy's got this much money and this gal's got this much. So we become dissatisfied with the role. I call it role frustration. We become dissatisfied with the goal frustration. And guess who we take it out on? Our soul. Yeah. So if you could Here's the formula that changed my life. I was on the road 80 to 100 days a year, 30 years ago. My wife and I divorced, and I worked from home all my life. So we discussed it, and I said, we agreed, I don't want to be on the road anymore. I want to be home. So here's my soul calling me home, clear as a bell. Here's my goal, which is stay on the road, speak, train, make a good living, help people. And in between was my role. And my role was frustrated. Do I serve my soul or do I obey my goal? In which case, I couldn't be shared custody. I decided to do my soul setting first, then my role setting, then my goal setting. And it was crystal clear that based on that formula, I would go home, be a full-time stay-at-home dad. My role would change. Now I'd be business owner, but I'd have to adjust my business. And then my goals completely changed. And that was okay because now my goal alignment with my role and my soul. And all of a sudden, a veil of frustration lifted off of me. In all three dimensions, I realized this is the right thing. And everything fell into place. And I wound up achieving just as many by not sacrificing my soul, selling my soul, or relinquishing my role in what it was meant to be, which is stay-at-home dad for 10 years. And so I've shared that with my people, and they realize if they have goal frustration, they're not where they think they ought to be, or they have role frustration. They're not getting section out of what they do, or they're not valuing what they do, or maybe worse, they disvalue what they do. That events to soul frustration. The problem is they're to perfect. You are the perfect you, and that we're imperfect. We're not enough to do more. We have to achieve. We have to gotta order the best. And if we don't, we're not living up to our potential. And when you feel like you're not living up to your potential, or not achieving what you think you should be, or you're not where you think you should be, doing what you really enjoy, who you take it out on? You take it on yourself, not realizing that you should reverse the order of priority. If you're not happy with your goal, let go of it. Who said you have to keep the goal? You're not happy in your role. You want to spend 40, 50 years doing things you're not happy about because you think you have to? Whole shift in the context of your life when you align, and I'm not saying perfect alignment. Sometimes you're more heavily rule, sometimes rule, sometimes, but to be conscious rather than unconscious, and to live by design rather than by default. And what had been really practicing, working out for myself for 40 years with that mindset, I got the stroke. I was able to say, okay, I got it here. It's time to call on that reserve. And that's where I got my courage to do what I did.
Man, there's so much. I encourage anybody out there, which I will be doing also, rewind that and listen to that again. There was a plethora of gold nuggets in that can be life-changing. But I can see by the way you're talking, Mitch, when I first had a stroke, I lost pretty much all my abilities. Therefore, I felt I was worthless. And it really was not true but that same shift occurred where I began to look at my soul. I began to look at the inward me. And then my life changed. I now still have a speech deficit. I'm still in a wheelchair, but you know what? I can make an impact on worth something. And I don't always feel that way, but it's a battle, no doubt. But Mitch, those documents you sent me, which I did not, I forgot you actually said, but I can put those in blogs. Those are part of what I can put those blogs, and then I can put them in the notes, right? In the description.
Oh, sure. I love for people to read that. If I may, I just want to give people two more things have come to my mind.
Please.
The vast majority of us, and we know this by the testing we do, I would say 70% of us value accept other people for who they are more than we accept ourselves. That's called empathy. It's called compassion. And the vast majority of us, compassion for other people. We have empathy for other people. And yet 70%, and we have the stats to prove it, disvalue ourselves or diminish our value based think we ought to be, should be, what somebody told us way back when we had, or doing things we do to improve image, to show a side of us that's really not true. So the more you go inside, your upside, outside, your upside is inside. And so when you think about empathy, all right, right now you can think about another person who you love and care about very deeply, and you accept them for who they are, strengths, limitations, beliefs. You rise above it because the intrinsic value of who that person is rises above differs in what we should do or how we should think. I wondered, what can I do? What can I say? How can I frame self-esteem, self-worth, self-love in a way everybody can get it? So here it is. Self-worth is empathy turned inward. If you could just be as empathetic to yourself, compassionate, accepting of your gifts, which many don't open our gifts because we're too distracted doing what we think we're supposed to, that we don't do and unwrap the gifts. So we spend a whole lifetime and then realize, oh my God, I never did that, but I want to. The pain of regret, much heavier than the pain of disappointment or the pain of setback or the pain. I had a quote 30 years ago. I did it for me. I do everything for me first. I find out this quote is in a school in Florida on every classroom framed. I had no idea. The quote is, there's no such thing as failure. You either succeed or. So I've never failed in my life. Have I not succeeded? Yeah, many times. And sometimes the learning is more valuable than success. And it's put on a refrigerator. Made it into a card. Her daughter saw it and said, hey, can I bring this to school? She brought it to school. Her teacher saw it and said, who said that? And the next day called me up and said, every classroom in that school in Florida framed my framed quote on the wall. There is no such thing as failure. You either or you learn. And so if you could learn that and bring, then you stop comparing, then you stop regretting your failures and you say, hey, that was my path. That was something I had to learn. And I had the stroke. I look at it. I say, you know what? The blessing here. Appreciating life. Valuing warm moments with people I love. Hey, no matter how rich we are, no matter how much stuff we don't take it with us. So I think movement back to humanity. And one of my favorite phrases is that we better save humanity from vanity entity, or we're headed down a bad path.
I'm not, bro. Honestly, I mean, you are nailing it, right? You are spot on. I think all of us as human beings struggle with this. We struggle with, we war every day, every minute about this. And unfortunately, we're getting down the end of the show. So I want you and I want everybody to know, Mitch has written some papers on this very subject. I will turn them into blogs and put them in the description of this video. But Mitch, can you please let everybody that watches this video, watch or listen to this podcast, the audio only, give them a tool to start right now changing their destiny, changing the way they view the life. Give them a tip how to be self-love proactive. How do we begin to self-love correctly?
Well, it's something that we don't have. It's something we have to get back. Baby, they're full of self-love. And so what I would do as a tool, pick love most in your life and get that feeling of how you feel about that person. Think about for a second, do you not deserve to love yourself just as much as you? So if you can't love yourself for whatever reason, you can't let go of the past, you can't, whatever, then pick that person you love the most and the love that you have for them back into your own heart. And surround yourself with people who want to love and serve you, who don't want to put barrier that make you question or doubt or disvalue yourself. And that's a big part of it. And you have to sort of have your no, I'm good. So I would say that I always say to people, my goals with me. And that goes for material things. But I'm going to leave a piece of my with everyone I meet. And when what they're not going to remember if I had money, if that celebrity, all that stuff passes like clouds. They're going to how I left a piece of my soul with them. Your goal in life is to leave a piece with everybody and leave the best piece.
Oh my God. Mitch, that was I even thank you, brother. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing who you are. I'm really the energy that you come on the show with, the podcast with. I want to share with people. So I hope you will come back on as usual and be part of this community because we really need you, because stroke lost everybody. Stroke tells people they're worthless, they have nothing to love. It's not true. It can be further from the truth, because a stroke, like Jan said earlier, stroke is not who they are, does not define who they are. How we respond does.
And everybody who loves you is for you. So draw upon their strength as for help. Don't be shy. Don't be, a goal here said, don't be so humble. You're not that good. Always think about that quote. So don't be humble for help. You deserve it. And the love will pour out.
All right, well, Mitch, thank you very much for joining on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and I hope you'll be on here soon again. So, again, if you enjoyed the show, please share it. Please like it. Subscribe to Stroke TV Media YouTube channel. And Mitch, thank you.
Aaron, for what you do. You're a very courageous soul.
All right, bro.
Like what you just heard? Visit c-suiteradio.com. C-Suite Radio, turning the volume up on business.